Hello Orchid friends, welcome back to my channel. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day, staying healthy and staying safe. Today in this video, we're going to take a look at my Phalaenopsis japonica. Its old name is Sederia japonica, and I still see many people refer to this type of orchid by either name. So I'm just gonna list both names at the bottom of the video. So in my collection, there are a total of 2 Sederia japonica or Phalaenopsis japonica. The one that we're talking about today is the smaller one of the 2. In fact, this one is also the newer one of the 2. It's still in its original media that came originally. I did not repot it right away, and in fact, I have a pet peeve, and this is something I've learned from Norman's Orchid about not repotting an orchid for the first 30 days. And I think that makes sense because when an orchid first comes to your house, this orchid needs to get adjusted to the environmental conditions, and that would include light, temperature, humidity, and a few other things. But if you repot it, it would have to also adjust to the new media. And if along the repot process you damage the roots, whatnot, you add further complications even to the overall adjustment period. So I don't do it unless I absolutely have to, and there are a couple scenarios where you will have to repot right away regardless of season. So for example, if you definitely see pests issues, bug issues, or if there's any kind of rotting issues with the roots or even leaves, I have had orchids that come to me fresh out of the package having black rot on the leaves. I have never shown those photos because they to me are kind of horrific. So I haven't shown those, but I have 2 orchids that came to me with those conditions. So anyway, so when you have those situations, you definitely need to do whatever you need to do to save the orchid. But if the orchid kind of comes healthy, then you really don't want to repot to make sure that you're introducing this orchid to your environment with the least amount of potential complexity or complications. Okay, so end of March 2020 was when I first saw the flower spike emerging, and then toward the end of April was when I thought that this orchid was completely finished with its spike elongation, and it was fully putting its energy on the bud maturing. And I was right, because toward the end of April, beginning of May, that was when this orchid started to open up its first bud. And I have to tell you, this is my first ever Sederia japonica bloom in my collection. You might have seen some photos from earlier of this video. I have 2 actually in my collection, and the bigger one has never bloomed. So this newer one, the smaller one, newer one, actually gave me bloom first. So that makes me wonder if I'm doing things, if I need to do something different with the other one. But anyway, back to this orchid. I really enjoy its fragrance, and to me it was a new experience, and it was super exciting to smell its fragrance for the first time. And I can tell you it's a very, very citrusy smell. It's really sweet, but it does have a little bit of lime, a hint of lime to it. It also reminds me of jasmine flower. At least that's what it smells like to me. Let me know if your Sederia japonica, Phalaenopsis japonica smells like what I have just described. Another interesting aspect to this orchid type, is the flower itself. It's nothing like any Phalaenopsis orchid, and yeah, it's now in the Phalaenopsis orchid family, but before it was called Sederia japonica. And if you search online, you're gonna find that Japanica would have slightly different type of marking variations, and the kind that I have personally, I think it's the most common looking kind of variation version, but nonetheless I still think that just the way that the whole entire flower look is still very special. So this orchid is very special in a couple ways. Like I said, I've never had Sederia japonica blooming in my collection, so when it was in bloom, I was taking a bunch of photos just to document and just so that I remember what it looked like, and hopefully I remember what it smells like. If you look at the marking on the bottom sepals, it's just kind of interesting. You know, the entire flower is white, has white background, but then you have this, I would say, burgundy or dark red stripes on the sepals, and then its lip is where it's really interesting. It has that fuchsia light pinkish purple pigments on the lip, but and then has that white center to the lip. So it's kind of cute, kind of interesting. I've seen, you know, Japanica photos online, but it's much better seeing it in person. So the bigger one is on the left. The bigger Japanica I have is on the left. It was growing roots, whatnot. It's in moss media, and it's currently in a cup without drainage hole, so the moss is really fluffy. But I suspect that I'm over potted the bigger one, and that's why it was producing new leaves, a couple new roots, but then the growth is really slow. I know somebody once told me Japanica in general grow really slowly anyway, but I noticed that the bigger one in my collection is just extra slow. So I don't know what the deal is. I may have to entertain the idea of repotting that bigger one. This smaller one, I think I'm gonna wait for a little longer since it bloomed and it obviously is happy, and the moss that at least from what I could detect, is still looking pretty decent, and there are new roots emerging, growing into the media. So I think I'm gonna wait for at least another year before I would even try to repot it, just so that maybe for the very next blooming season I will have some bloom. And just really quickly, the care that I provided to this particular blooming Japanica is very simple, and the outer cup that you see, by the way, is just my own way of quarantining this orchid without having to move it to a totally different location. So the outer cup container really has no hole, but it kind of provides a little bit of division or divider, so that in case there is any immediate like pest, you know, it's not just going to be easily spreading to my other orchids. Still a chance, but that's the chance I'm willing to take, because I like to keep all my orchids in my sunroom just so that I don't feel like I'm living in a jungle. Quarter cup of water each time, and then I did fertilize this orchid ever since I received it with quarter strength fertilizer, 25%, and that seemed to kept up with what it needed pretty well. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this orchid. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!